Hey guys, it's Sean and Jackie of OpenLove101.com and welcome to our show. Today we're with Bella and Jace of Dallas, Texas, and they have a podcast called Foreplay, and we're so excited to have them here today. We're going to talk a little bit about their lives, how they got together, how they are doing what they do today, and so on and so forth. So hey guys, thank you. Welcome to our show.
Thank you for
thank you
having
for having
us. We're
us.
excited to be here. Excited to share our story with you guys.
Yeah, well, we can't wait to hear it. Yeah. Let's start with, I guess, how long have you been together? How long have you known each other?
We've been together. We've known each other since we were teens. We know each other for almost 20 years now.
20 years?
Yeah, and we've been together for almost 15 years. 15 years this November. So
were you 8 when you got together?
I know.
We're 30 now.
Yeah.
We started dating when we were 15, and we've never broken up any time between that time.
So half of your life has been together.
Yeah.
We don't know anything else.
In November, it'll be half of our life will be. After November, more of our life will be together than apart, which still
it's crazy.
Blows my mind.
That is amazing. I mean, I've been with Jackie 10 years. That's my longest relationship, period, ever. So I don't know. I'd have to be really, really old to catch up with that.
No, it's only 5 more years. That's it.
No, for it to be half my life.
Yeah. I can't believe you actually admitted that.
I know. It's a funny story because we met on a field trip in elementary school, and the very first day that we actually met each other, we had a crush on each other.
Yeah.
And then because we were in different grades, we're actually only 6 days apart. I'm a cougar. I'm 6 days older. But,
Really? So your birthdays are that close?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
But we were in different grades, and we never saw each other again after that until we were 15. But we did have crushes on each other that very first day we ever met. So I guess it was love.
It was just meant to be.
How did you know you had a crush?
I was nervous around.
Yeah,
you were?
I remember I had a stuffed animal and I named it. I guess I was like 8, 10, 9, however old.
10, yeah.
And I had a stuffed animal and I named it after her. And then my mom asked who I named. I was like, oh, I just thought it was a fun name. And then thinking back, I was like, oh, that's why I must have had a crush on you that day. And then we just talked about it way years later.
Yeah.
Maybe I must have been 17 or something when we talked about that. And then we just figured out, oh, we actually liked each other back then.
And so how old were you for the crush?
Like 10.
10.
I think. Yeah,
That is the
maybe
cutest
9,
thing ever.
4th and 5th grade.
Yeah.
That's when it was.
Wow.
And we
On a
met-
jump rope team.
Yeah, that's what I say.
So it was like a
jump rope
swing team, like a jump rope team.
Yeah, full circle. It's very full circle.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Because you're 30, and how long have you guys been, would you consider being in the lifestyle?
It's over 8. Is it 8 years?
Yeah, it was
now?
8 years last month.
Yeah.
So you guys were young.
Yeah, and so over half their time they've been together, they've been open-minded.
Yeah. And we started talking about, the idea of threesomes or anything, just more open-mindedness in general when we were probably 21, maybe late 20. So, I mean, we were super young when we got started, especially if I feel like for the lifestyle.
I think a lot of that has to do with because we were so sheltered growing up, and we grew up in a very conservative household, and sex was never talked about. We never had the birds and the bees talk or anything like that. And
like either one of us.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even have sex until we were 18. We felt bad about it. We were like, oh, we have to wait till we get married, all that kind of stuff. And I think that shelteredness and not being able to experiment or do anything like that was how we brought up the subject of, I brought it up to Jace and I asked when we were about 20, 21, if he ever wondered what it was like to kiss another person. Because I mean, he never even held hands with anybody else. We were pretty much each other's first kiss. Because I pecked a guy before when I was like a teenager, and that was it. And so we experienced everything together. We didn't know any different. And so that's how we opened up the conversation with this.
In that conservative way that you grew up, has it affected you at all in being adults? Is it still a cloud? Does it ever interfere with how you feel and think about things that you do today?
It did for me at the beginning, for sure. I remember the day that we had sex. I was like raised super, super religious, and everything was very shunned that was sexual. And we had sex for the first time. I felt bad about it. And then I had a friend text me. He was like, oh, can I pray for you about anything? Just like trying to be like a kind friend. But it really like got in my head. And over the years though, as I've kind of come into like my own thinking and what I really believe as an adult and growing up, I feel like those things don't bother me anymore, but it definitely was such a struggle. But I think that we were also so repressed in a way, it made me want to explore and see what else was out there. And especially having a partner, I didn't want to just go out and be by myself. I wanted to do it with my partner that had also never experienced those things before.
Yeah, we went to do it together. And
Yeah,
so I feel
that's
like
really great. I grew up in a religious family as well early on, and I got in trouble. I had a crush on this girl, and she wrote me a love letter. This is probably first or second grade, and my family found it. My nanny and then my mom. Oh my God, I was in so much trouble. It really prevented me from even trying to seek out friendships with girls at that point because I was so scared of what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's stuff. How we're raised, I think, as children, can really play a big role on how we act as we start to get older and want to start experiencing doing things with opposite sex, or to explore ourselves can be really traumatic if we have that really strong background like we did and Jackie did too.
Definitely.
I think so.
Well, and what I think is really interesting about your story, and especially you, Jace, is, we talk so often about how repressed women are in their sexuality and how hard it is for us to express that, and how men are much more able to explore that side of themselves, that sowing their oats. And, the women have to be virginal even after they're married. That's just this kind of weird concept. Yeah. So it's interesting for you to be talking about your repression, as a man, from your sexuality. And I think that's an interest, that's a topic that's there that I haven't been talking about. Because for one thing, I don't feel like I have the knowledge to talk about that.
Because you're not a man.
Because I'm not. I can just talk from my own experience. Yeah. So, for you to be talking about that, if you don't mind, can we talk about that for just a minute? Like what was going through your mind when you did finally decide that the two of you were going to be intimate? What was that like for you physically, mentally, emotionally? Was there a lot of discussion before that?
There's definitely discussion. Yeah. Also, at that point we lived at home, so we didn't have a chance. We wanted our first time, like you always hear in the movies, oh, it has to be special, right? We're not going to go, have sex in a car. Like that's not how we want, especially since we've been together. Like we loved each other. It was this intimate thing. And we talked about it. And it ended up happening whenever my parents were out of town for something. And I was staying by myself for a couple of days. Like, oh, we have a chance where, we were in college. Like we had graduated.
We were freshmen in college.
But we were at a community college, like our hometown. So we still did it at home. And I remember having the talk for a long time about, I think we're ready. I think we want to. And then it was just so hard for me, especially being raised so religious. It was like this huge guilt that I felt. And that's why even whenever we had sex, like I remember crying afterwards because I felt so guilty about it. Like I had fucked up forever because like I can't take this thing back. And it was hard. Like we didn't have sex for a little while after that. I said it was really that me coming into, like me starting to try to think for myself and not just what I was taught is what is right, but me having my own values that I think are important to me and realizing that I don't think this is bad. And like, why do I think it's bad? Because I was told it was bad. And I think that it took me time to work through that. But once I got through that and once I was like, you know what, I believe it's okay for myself. I think I'm okay. That's when we were able to start having more open-mindedness and furthering our relationship sexual wise, because now, I don't have to cry after we have sex. Like I can actually do this and enjoy it and grow together in this. And it made us feel closer, and this passion that you get from that you don't experience without sex in your intimate, like romantic relationship. And so I think it was just that process of thinking for myself and being able to actually choose what I think is right for me and not just what I was told is right.
Right.
Did you guys, like after the first time and you had these feelings, did you discuss them? Did you tell her how you were feeling?
Oh yeah.
Did you keep it from her?
We've always been huge about communicating. And obviously through the tears, over here crying. When I had to drive her home, like talking about it, we talked about it, and she's always supportive. And because I was raised more religious, but she was just, I feel like, more repressed, and it wasn't talked about. And we
Yeah.
weren't supposed to have sex. Like, you're supposed to just go to school, do a good job. Like, that's what you do. And so, I mean, it was me talking to her, telling her how I felt, but her being, understanding. And if we need to wait a while before we do it again, like, I understand. And we're in this together, and we're going to figure it out together. So we've always had that support for each other. And so that's why I feel like as we've moved forward, it's always been so beneficial to us because of having like such each other to support each other so much through all of those ups and downs that we've had to deal with in life.
When you have to go through puberty together and you learn every part of becoming an adult together, or becoming a person together, I feel like that's how we had such a strong foundation, and we're able to communicate freely and be honest, and we don't keep anything from each other.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we literally share everything.
Everything. It's like if someone, I always tell people it's a joke, but if you tell me something, you're telling my wife something. Like, that's, I don't keep anything. Like, that's just like, that's how it is.
It's just, I feel like we're one person.
Yeah.
Like,
A package
but not,
deal.
yeah, we're a package deal.
Like, take both of us or deal with it. Like, that's how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does feel that way sometimes.
But, that had to be difficult at, when I think back to when I was 18, I thought I was super adult, but I really, I might have been able to think like an adult, but I didn't have the experiences to be able to back up, some of my choices and things. So, I mean, for you to have gone through, it's really kind of like a trauma, of going through that, what you were up against, and then your support system in that, but then you also kind of dealing with your own stigma about sexuality. Do you think because the two of you both had this kind of stigma about it, that kind of clinging to each other helped in a way, or do you think it could have kind of caused you to stagnate because neither one of you knew, like, well, what do we do now with this information?
I think it was just helpful.
I think it was too.
Because we understood each other, and I knew that if he needed more time and didn't want to for a while, then I would be completely okay with that because I respected what he found important, and so.
Yeah, and it was always for us. It's been like the love of our relationship is it keeps us. I mean, obviously everyone does, but I feel like the sex is a thing that's on top of it that we absolutely love, but if we had to go on a trip for a week and we couldn't have sex because of whatever reason, we're still going to have just as good of a time because that love backbone of where we started out with, it didn't start in a sexual way. I mean, I was 15. I didn't think about, I honestly was so repressed that I didn't think about having sex. We talked about this a few days ago. I don't remember the first time I ever thought about I don't remember when I learned what sex was. I don't know how I learned what sex was because no one taught me that. I remember the things in school and stuff like that, but it was just always our love for each other, and that's what mattered. And then the sex came later with it. And so I think that it made us stronger because we didn't need it at that time.
It wasn't the driving force.
Yeah, exactly. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
After you had sex this first time, was it something when you saw him so upset, Bella, did you feel as though, like, did you enjoy it? And your thoughts was, oh man, I want to do this again, but I've got to give him the space? Or was it something that was just more about his feelings?
I felt bad, like, right away because he felt so bad. And honestly, we didn't know what we were doing anyway. It's not like it was some romantic, awesome sex. I think so
Thank God we didn't wait for marriage.
It did what?
Thank God we didn't wait for marriage.
Yeah.
That would have not been worth the wait.
But I was just more upset because of how he was feeling. I didn't feel bad about myself or anything. I knew where it stemmed from, and I knew that it was because he felt bad because of his upbringing and all of that. And so I didn't take it to heart or anything. And my immediate reaction was like, hey, are you okay? I understand. Let's take it one day at a time.
Okay.
This is not to interrupt, but I'm going to interrupt. This is a perfect example, though, of a couple where one partner is struggling with something and you are waiting. It's that whole not going any faster than the slowest person. And so you had this love and empathy for him as a person and understood that he had things to work out in his mind. And by you being supportive, gave him even more courage or even more of a level, safe playing ground from which to tackle those issues. Because if then if you'd been like, I can't believe you're crying, and really got into it, it would have been more layers of things to have to peel back to get through
100%.
that.
Jackie, that's a really great point, actually, because that's something we deal with in our lifestyle often. Is one person might want to move a little faster than the other person, and how we pull back. And in a moment, we're going to get more onto how they evolved, how Jase and Bella evolved into the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And if you want to spend more time with Jackie and I one-on-one through our private Facebook group, you can join Open Love 101 Plus at openlove101.com. And from there, we talk about more intimate things, or we can talk more intimately with you. We have content there that we don't have anywhere else. It's really a great platform, and we're seeing it really grow and grow and grow. It also gives you time to interact with other people that are going through the same thing that you're going through besides us. So be sure and check it out. Open Love 101 Plus at openlove101.com. And now we're back with Bella and Jace, and it's time for the big juicy questions about how you went from being in your relationship together and how that evolved into having these fantasies of having other people join in.
Yeah, I mean, crying
Yeah.
to let's have a party.
Yeah. That's a big space in between there. Yeah. There was a couple steps in between.
Yeah. It was a while before we started actually enjoying having sex and being able to just being intimate with each other and then not feeling bad about it, knowing that it's okay because we love each other. We don't have to wait until marriage to enjoy this. And it's not anything that we need to be repressing because it's not. Anyway, so once we started exploring that, the first thing we started doing was watching porn together. And that was more so we knew different positions to try.
How do we do this?
We didn't know how to have sex, So we started doing that, and then being as we were each other's first everything and never experiencing anything before, and we see our friends going out and on spring break, and you watch the movies, and you're like, oh my gosh, these people do fun, wild things. Do you want to try this? Is that something we should try? And so when we were about 21, I had asked Jace if he had ever wondered what it was like to kiss another person. And he was like, yeah, I've wondered that before. I mean, who hasn't wondered that, and we're all each other knows. And it wasn't anything that we felt like we were missing. It was just something that we wanted to see. We wanted to experiment. We wanted to know what it was like. But we knew we wanted to do it together because we never wanted to be apart. And so at that point, I told Jace that I was interested in women. I had always been interested in women, but I didn't know how to explore that. I mean, I knew we were going to be together forever. I knew that this was my soulmate. This is my everything. How am I supposed to go and experience women? I don't know. And so, especially with him growing up so religious too, I didn't know how he was going to react to that either. And so,
were you afraid of how he would react when you said something like that?
Because we had watched some other porns together of women, and that's something I had been watching for a while as well. And, he wasn't anything that he thought was wrong.
He wasn't averting his eyes or anything like that.
Yeah. So. And because we knew we loved each other, it's not like he thought that I was going to leave him for a woman. I mean, I wouldn't leave him for a man either. So it's not, I think because we had that security there, it wasn't anything.
Okay. Yeah. And then we'd also just had so many talks about, like I said earlier, with the thing of me realizing sex is not bad. It was a whole bunch of these things that I feel like we're taught that were just so ingrained in me that I realized, why do I actually think this is wrong? There's no reason this is wrong. So at that point, I feel like I was thinking for myself enough to realize that I think that all of this is okay. And so I think whenever she approached me at that, we'd already had enough conversations that she knew I was going to be supportive of whoever she was.
Okay.
Yeah. And then how we even got into, so we had watched the porn, we started talking about those things, and we didn't drink till we were 21, and we'd never gone to a party. We'd never done any of that high school stuff that high school kids do.
Or even college stuff.
Because our first years were at community college. We went to no college, we did nothing, and we didn't feel like we were missing out on something, but you do look and say, what is that like? What is that? And we're just curious. But we wanted to see what it was like together. And being these naive kids, basically, we said, hey, where is the craziest thing that happened? It has to be spring break, right? That is what kids do, is spring break. That's what we thought. And so that was our solution to it. And we had this conversation of, okay, if we were to go to spring break, I feel like I would be okay. It's the pillow talk thing, I'd be okay if you kissed other girls. I'd be okay if you kissed other guys. We had talked about.
I was okay if he kissed other girls. We could dance with other people. I could flash my titties.
Yeah.
Like,
This was the talk before you went to spring break.
Yeah. Because we had been watching porn for a year or so at that point, and like had little conversations here and there. But we thought spring break was the answer to find this exploration we were looking for. And we'd even talked about maybe if we found a girl, maybe a threesome, but we'd obviously have to, if that were to come about, we'd have to talk about it then and see if we actually still feel that way in that moment. But that's kind of how all of those conversations started flowing. And then we went on spring break.
And where'd you go with spring break?
We went
South
South
Padre.
South Padre Island, yeah.
Yeah, because we were in Oklahoma at the time, and that was the closest. We had no money. We were in college. So, we stayed in some horrible hotel, and
it was a spring break. It wasn't bad.
It was spring break. It was a college spring break.
Yeah. Very typical college spring break.
Yeah, I went to South Padre, and I remember the things that happened were you did kiss another guy.
I remember, because this guy came up, and I was like, can I kiss him? Like, I turned around, I was like, can I kiss him? And he was like, yeah, do it. And so I kissed him, and then I kissed some other girls.
And then we just had those conversations about it, and like how it made us feel.
But at that point, he didn't kiss anybody on that trip.
I danced with some people, but that was about it.
We had a big issue with confidence in ourselves too at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that had a big part to do with it as well.
Yeah, and I think that you go from this point that if you've only been with each other, your partner is going to love you and find you attractive, but then they also there's parts of you feeling attracted to your partner because you have love for them. Like there's a difference there between someone it's just physical compared to a physical plus love. And so I was coming from this mindset of I've never dated anybody. I don't know who ever really liked me. And so I had no confidence because I was also 5'10", 108 pounds, like just this tall, not even tall, but like just skinny kid that had never flirted with anybody, nothing. And so I had so many confidence issues because I was like, does anyone actually even find me attractive? Because the only person I know finds me attractive loves me too.
Right.
And that was this also monologue that you don't really even think about going through, but you do if you've only been together. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And so that was, really a struggle. But it was the thing that the lifestyle has definitely helped over time. Like, I mean, I feel very confident in myself now, but I felt like I had to find confidence in myself and just believe it. And then once I found that, it kind of reflected itself in the lifestyle. And, you have things that I guess affirm that. Like you have experiences with people that you're attracted to that also attracted to you. And it affirms that thought. But I feel like I had to get confidence in myself and believe it. And same with her. I feel like we both went these body transformations where we kind of changed how we looked by exercise and diet and those things in opposite ways.
Yeah, because I was over 200 pounds whenever we were in high school up until before spring break, I'd say. Yeah, I was about 20 before I had like a complete lifestyle change. And then at that point, I had already been able to become more confident, become more me. But Jace hadn't experienced that yet. But then after spring break, we get back and then we start having all this pillow talk. We're thinking, oh my gosh, like that was like, it almost happened. We met this girl who was awesome and it didn't work out.
But like she was in our room.
It was like very sexual tension.
Yeah. And
we didn't know how to move it forward.
No, we did not. Definitely, we did not know how to move it forward. But
we do now.
We do now. Definitely know how to move it forward now. But one of the biggest things for us is I feel like we got back. And at that point, we had talked about maybe threesomes. And I started thinking about it. And I said, well, if I was going to have that experience with another woman, this whole thing has always been us together. I was like, I would want you to have that experience with a man as well, because it wouldn't feel, at that point, I was like, it wouldn't even feel right for me to experience somebody else, but you still have never actually got to do that. So at that point.
But I wanted to, because I've never been with women.
Yeah.
And so it's not, whenever we were talking about it, it's not something that I thought, oh, we can only have women.
Yeah.
It was just something that I never experienced anyway. But
it's something that I also, because I knew she liked guys. I mean, she's bi. So I was like, I want you to be able to have that experience with a guy too, because if I'm going to have that experience, let's have it together and see how it affects both of us and see how it, everything. And so that's when we started having even more deeper pillow talk of, okay, if we were going to, I said, we didn't know what full swap was. Like we had no clue. We were like, oh yeah, we could have sex with another couple if we found the right couple, we think. In our heads, it all sounded like, I mean, everything is hypothetical in the lifestyle until you actually are there in the moment and decide if you want to do it or not.
Right.
But in our heads, we're like, okay, I think this is it. Like, I think that we could do this. I think it could be fun for us. And we said, okay, if we ever have this chance to happen and it wasn't right for us, our relationship's great how it is. We'll forget about it and move forward. And that was kind of the point we got to, but we didn't know how to find that.
So
and
we
that's
were like,
where
Vegas.
Yeah, that was the next solution.
Thing. We were like, well, spring break's crazy. Vegas is crazy, right? So we go to Vegas. We're freshly 22. And we're like, if a couple, we don't know what swingers are. We don't know what anything is. We were like, we just thought it was something that people did that was a little crazy.
Yeah.
And so we're like, if a couple happens to fall in our lap and everything lines up and they want to also experience that, we would have sex with the other partner in the same room and experience that together. And if for any reason it starts happening, somebody hates it, we just stop right away, pretend that it didn't happen. Yeah. And I guess long story short, we went to a topless pool in Vegas, happened to meet a couple there who were same age as us, which was crazy because we were 22, also looking. They had been together for almost about the same time we were together.
Yeah, since they were 16 or something like that.
We went to school for the same thing. Like we all had the same degrees.
You guys were like all mirrors of each other.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Crazy, yeah.
And they also wanted to experience that. And so we hung out with them. We ended up staying another night in Vegas, and then we full swapped. Like we said, we literally went straight from you kissing. She was the first person.
Well, the night before that, so the first night that we hung out with them, we did like parallel play.
Yeah.
So I fucked her and she had sex with the other girl, had sex with her boyfriend. And then I did kiss that girl that night and she kissed the other guy. And we were talking like, well, we really like you guys. You want to stay another night? So we had no money. We were still in college. We were like, we got $50 to spend on a hotel. If you guys can give us another 50, we'll get a $100 hotel, find somewhere to stay. We stayed the night. And then the next day we ended up full swapping. But we had the whole day with him. So we talked about fantasies. We talked about things that we thought we were comfortable, things that they thought they were comfortable. And we were just so crazily aligned on that it worked out. And it was just very fortunate because, I mean, the chance of finding people that are not lifestyle and having experience, that does not happen. Yeah. It just doesn't happen. So the fact that it happened at 22 of all ages, it's so hard to find people that are 22 in the lifestyle, period, because it's hard to get to this point in your relationship at that young of an age. And so the fact that we were able to find that was just such a blessing. And we had that experience, and we had driven to Vegas because we were visiting her family and we had drove the car there. So we had 18 hours to drive home and we just talked about it and we had both loved it. And the craziest thing was we said, how did having sex with somebody else make me feel more connected to you? Like, I feel like there's this, like, I love you even more somehow because now there was no jealousy for us, which maybe we're fortunate there. I know a lot of people deal with that, but there was no jealousy. It was just this love and happiness, and it felt like this blissful moment. And it was like, I just want to find out how we can do this more.
Yeah.
And it was just such a crazy experience. And that's when you guys come in because of Colette. We looked up, we were trying to find out. So we said, okay, maybe this is swingers. Like, what's a swinger? I don't know. And like, we looked it up, we said, that's kind of what we did, right? We're like, I don't know. It sounds like what we did. So we started looking it up. And so we were in Oklahoma City, and the clubs there, it didn't sound like it was exactly our speed, but we had read about Colette. And so we made a weekend trip down to Dallas and
stayed at the hotel that was right there. Made it like a whole weekend. Yeah. And I remember we went in and we were like, oh my God.
Yeah. Was that oh my God, nervous or like
both? Like we were like so excited. We were like, I can't believe this is an actual thing.
This is real.
Yeah. We were like so nervous.
Like there's a place for it.
Yeah. We did like 3 outfit changes.
We went back and forth. We got there at 9 or what maybe opened at 10 at that point. I don't remember. But we got there as soon as it opened and we were just like so nervous. And then there was a theme night. I remember so clearly. I think it was an 80s theme.
Yeah.
And I wore this very 80s shirt and no other guys were wearing 80s shirts. And I was like, so maybe guys don't dress up to this. I don't know. So then I went back to the hotel. Thankfully, it was walkable. I put on like another shirt, and then somebody else was like, "Oh, someone said something weird about my shirt." It's like, "What do you mean this shirt looks weird?" So I went back and changed it again. I changed 3 times that night, but it was overwhelming, but in a good sense. It was just feel like maybe there is people like us. Maybe there is a place for us with how we also feel. Like maybe there is like-minded people.
We felt like finally we found our people.
Yeah.
And there was a place to meet other people like us. Yeah, just like you said.
I can't tell you how good that makes me feel.
Well, that's what's crazy about this. It feels so like full circle to be sitting here
talking to
you guys because you're like this integral part in our lifestyle journey, but you don't even like know that because of like what you provide through the clubs and these safe places for people like us that are exploring. It means the absolute world. So I said it feels like we were sitting there last night talking. It's like it feels surreal to be here and be talking to you guys. I don't know. It literally blows my mind. I could not be more grateful like for being here in this moment with this opportunity. It's crazy.
Thanks, and I feel the same way. I mean, that was all these years. I mean, I've had these kind of clubs for, nearly 30 years, and I opened them for the reason you're talking about, because I wanted a place where I could be myself.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything like it. Not the caliber that I wanted to provide, and to hear from someone that's what it did for them. It means the world to me. It really does.
And like I don't know how many people you've touched with. Like there's probably hundreds, like thousands. Yeah.
Literally, hang on a second.
You're like, let me take out my
notes
app.
Well, you brought up something earlier when you were talking about your age and how you don't feel as though there's a disproportionate number of people your age that are embracing this as opposed to people that are older. Why do you think that is? You said something about the footing of the relationship, but do you really, that wasn't the case for you two.
Yeah. I think you have to have such a great foundation underlying to even be open to this. And I think that we think with how life goes, when you're younger, you're still figuring each other out. When I say younger, I mean like a young adult. And so I think that's why there's not as many in the lifestyle in that younger age demographic, because they haven't quite figured that out yet. They haven't had the time yet. And that's why I think there's more couples who are older who have been able to learn all those things already and experience those things together. And, if you want to have kids, like maybe they've already had that and they don't have to necessarily find sitters as much. Like it's just hard to balance. And just because we were lucky enough to be together so young, we already had 7 years of learning each other before we got into that.
Well, plus you guys have told us you barely knew anything about sex, let alone more of an open sexual relationship.
Yeah.
And I think there's many, many young people like that maybe they know about sex, but they only know one relationship model, and that's strictly monogamous. So that wouldn't even be a thought that would cross their mind. Although I have to say, when I was younger, my first experience was at 18, and I had multiple experiences in my late teens, early 20s that were, threesomes and orgies, and I don't know how I fell into that. It's such a young adult, but I did, and I knew from the very first time that happened that that's who I was as a person. So for me it was a little bit different. And then I was in some monogamous relationships over the years, but I always was willing to open it up to a consensual non-monogamous relationship. I didn't know that term until like recently, by the way. I don't know what I called it.
Yeah.
You want to have some threesomes? I'm open to it.
That's what we thought too.
Well, and I'm also curious too about, so you have this super uber religious upbringing. And so you had the stigma about sex, but where did that kind of ownership mentality that we're taught through religion as far as relationships go, how did you come to grips with that? Where was your jealousy or your sense of, it's you and me, it's just supposed to be the two of us in this relationship? Where was that process that you were able to let go of that?
I think it was honestly after I said it was that big crossing that hurdle of me feeling like sex is not wrong for me.
Okay.
And then once I had that, I started to rethink almost every taught value that I had and start to think about, is this actually, I said, truly what makes sense to me? And so when we had talked about those things, of it's not what we missed out on, but like what else is out there, I said, well, if I was taught that this is wrong, but I don't believe that anymore, then like, why would this other thing that when I actually think about it to my core, I don't feel like it's wrong, then why would I let it affect me? And so I think it was all in that same point of just truthfully coming to who I believed it was okay for me to be and not who I thought it was okay for someone to tell me to be. Because that's how I grew up. It's like, you're telling me this is who I need to be a good person, to be loved by my family, be whatever it is, right? This is who you're supposed to be. And it was just that learning that's not true. Like we have to grow into ourselves. And I think that once I had that switch, it was just at that point, do I think this is right for me? If it is, then great. If it's not, then great. But I get to choose now for myself. I think that's when that flip kind of switched, or that switch flipped. Whatever it is. Something flipped in there. Something happened.
And Jace, you mentioned your family. I mean, your family know?
Not our immediate family.
No? Okay.
All of our friends do, and some family members do. But we just never felt like, if we were poly or something where we were bringing more people actually into a relationship with us, then we would tell our family. But we didn't see how it would help them in any sense because, I mean, clearly we never had a sex talk with them, right? I don't know about their sexual things they do. I have no clue. And so that's just never been.
I mean, they could be swingers too, and you wouldn't know it.
Yeah, I have a real big feeling they're not. But you never know. But I think that it's just, I didn't see how it would help them. Like, I will tell my friends because I want to be able to be myself, but I don't live with my family. You know, like I go home and visit them for a few days, and you know, I cannot say, like, my family doesn't cuss. Like, I can't cuss in front of my family. Yeah. Nothing like that. Yeah. And I feel like there's no point of me telling them. If they asked and it got brought up, then I would be honest. Right. But I don't see how it would like actually help them in any sense. So it's just one of those things of it's left unsaid. And
since it has to do with sex, and I think it's just because our families don't talk about sex
about it anyway
in general. So I'm like, why would they need to know what we're doing in the bedroom?
And the same with you, Bella. Your family hasn't come up at all.
And I mean, we're open with everything we do, with everything with foreplay. I mean, with our podcast, our faces are there. We know. I think they know. I think they just haven't said anything.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think that they would ever actually confront us about it. I mean, the amount of, cousins and stuff that we have that are on TikTok age. You know who we are. So I'm sure that we have families that have seen it, but no one has ever said anything. I said, your brother knows because we just got a conversation. So we feel comfortable telling people if they want to know.
Right.
But I said, it's also that thing of, so just like what good would it do for me? So if it was poly, definitely, because it's an additional thing that we're bringing in that would make a difference in my family. Yeah. But I feel like this is our thing. Right. I stay out of their lane when it comes to their sex life. They've never been interested in mine, because we didn't have that talk. So why me bring it up to them if they never brought it up to me? And that's kind of how our mindset works with it.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's good. I really love that you said as if they did bring it up, you would be honest with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jackie's the same. And we've talked about that before too. For us, the key is honesty, no matter what. I mean, we talk about that being a core of, to have the ability to have the kind of relationship that we have. Honesty is the core value in that.
Yes.
And if you don't have it, it should really permeate throughout your life. And we see so many people that are really dishonest about who they are and I think there's just this internal struggle with them a lot of times. And it's so much easier, in my opinion, if you just be honest with yourself. And if someone approaches you about it, I mean, it's really up to them. I don't have any control over how someone feels about me or what I do. And I have to accept that. Because plenty of people in my life don't accept me for who I am. You talked about someone talking about praying for you. I had a good, really, really close friend of mine years ago, and he really felt like what I was doing in terms of the clubs was wrong. And he really tried to push me to get out of it, and come with him and we'll heal you. And and it ended up, he wouldn't accept me for who I am as a person. And, I mean, I would still be there for him. I mean, I don't hate anybody, but I don't think he wants to be around, me, and I just accept that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we feel the same way. I mean, once we finally, because we started our podcast around 2 years ago, so we were in lifestyle for 6 years at that point, where people knew, but I mean, our face wasn't out there. But once we actually came out, if you want to use that term of like coming out as we are open to this, I feel like it's been the most freeing experience.
Yes.
And all of the people, life is too short to be around people that don't love you for who you are. So if I tell somebody this and they don't want to be around me, like, cool, like that's okay. I don't need this friendship. I'm going to have plenty of other friends, and I want to only be surrounded by people who are going to love me and accept me and let me be me for me. And I said, if you don't agree with what I want to do, that's okay. We can still be friends. Like that's, if you don't like what I do, but if you want to stay away from me because I do this, then like better for me, because I don't want to be around you either. And so that's kind of what our mentality has become, is just whoever wants to be our friend for who we truly are, like to our core, then I'll be your friend too. But if not, we're not losing anything, because life's too short to have friends that don't love you for you. So
right. So how you brought up the podcast? How did that come about? What was the catalyst that was like, oh, we need to talk about this?
So it was quarantine. It was middle of
Oh.
COVID, and we were like, well, we've been in Lifestyle for so long now. At that point, it had been 6 years. I feel like we have a lot of experiences and stories to tell, and especially being in that younger demographic, I had been listening to podcasts and your guys' information and everything since the beginning, since we were 22. But there wasn't a voice for people in that younger demographic. And so we were like, well, you want to just see where it goes? And then like, maybe we're going to be able to help somebody and normalize it for them.
And that goes into even that question you asked earlier about why do we think that younger people are not in this as much? I do think a lot of it is having to have enough strength. If you're going to be successful, anyone can try to swing, but if you're going to be successful, you have to have that strength in your relationship. But I also think a large part of it is from a lack of information. And it's like our mentality before, it's like a swinger is just some 75-year-old that has sex with everyone. Like that's what I thought it was. I think there's so much misinformation out there that I think a lot of people that are, in their mid-20s or 30, they don't think that they think they're going to go to a club and there's going to be nobody else there that they would even relate to. Right. And we wanted to be this voice to say, first of all, like everyone else in the podcast world, like doing this is like, we want to normalize, like destigmatize what swinging really is. But we also wanted to be a voice for anyone who was younger that looks and be like, well, maybe whenever I'm 40, we'll do this. But we wanted people to realize you can have friends now. We never went on lifestyle vacations because like, there's not going to be one our age. Like, is there a point? And it's not true. There is people in our demographic, but there needs to be people speaking out about it to say it's okay that you're this age. This is normal. It's all normal. Even if some people say it's not, we wanted to just be that representation for our age, because we wanted to be the people that we wish we had. Like, I wish there was someone that was 30 when I was 22 to say, keep it up, keep looking. It's going to be discouraging at times because you're not always going to find people that you can relate to. But if you keep doing it and build those friendships, build a relationship, you're going to have so much success in this. And we wanted to be the person that we needed when we were 22, like to represent our age. So that's like what was always
the backbone of why
we did it. Yeah.
Well, and and we talked a little bit about this last night, and I definitely want to talk about it because I love it so much. You had made a comment about, and you even did it earlier today, about sex kind of being the frosting of a relationship. It's that bonus that you get, but it's all that stuff underneath that, all of those ingredients that you have to have in order to put frosting on anything. Yeah. So I love that too, that it's another way to destigmatize what people think of as swingers. Everybody always wants to take it to the sexual side of what we're doing. And I really value that you saw the importance of the relationship that needs to be there. And that doesn't matter what age you are. And really, it doesn't even matter what relationship model that you're in. Yeah, you still have to have these same kind of ingredients if your relationship's going to be successful. So I love that you can be that voice of, you can have this great relationship and also add this other element to it that's going to kind of diversify who you both are as people. It makes you bigger, right? Yeah. I said right again, didn't I? Sorry. John gets after me when I'm like, right?
I'm like, yes, right. Yes, Jackie.
That is wrong.
We agree.
But it's, I heard somebody tell me that, if you can become very small and you can make your partner become very small if you expect them to be your everything. And if we look at our relationships just like we look at any other element of our life, like friendships, we don't just have one friend. Most of us have a lot of friends, and we have friends at the grocery store. You know, we have those relationships with people. Maybe we don't see them all the time, but they're still important to us. And to think that that has to stop when we get in a relationship with someone or we get married is really selling the relationship short, selling us short. And but that can be a hard lesson. You know, that was something that I struggled with in my background, with my religion, of climbing out of monogamy. It's something I had done for almost 5 decades. So even though I loved the thought of expanding myself, there was still this voice in the back of my head that was like, you're really not supposed to be doing that. You know?
Yeah.
So
I know that voice. Yeah.
Right?
I had it for a while.
Yeah. And it can be, even if it's something that you want to do, and so that can be a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love is that you guys are able to really focus on the realism of what's going on with our relationship model, and not this kind of media focused.
It's my biggest pet peeve.
Right? It just makes me
Hate it.
want to vomit.
Me
Like,
too.
let's take this
Everything
brand new
in
couple,
the-
throw
yeah.
them in a place, and then we're gonna feed off of their chaos.
Yeah.
Instead of talking to somebody like you guys that you've been together for a long time, and you
Yeah.
can talk about the foundation of it, the realism of it.
I agree. And I think there's so much that goes into it that people don't realize. And I've tried to explain this thing to people that have never been in the lifestyle or never had an experience, but to have an experience with someone else that can make you feel this deeper connection, it doesn't like make sense to me, but there's so many facets that can make your love stronger. And I cannot tell you we were good at communicating, but the amount of communication that we've had to learn because of the lifestyle is like exponential compared to because the conversations that you have to have in normal day-to-day life take energy, but when you bring other things into other people into it, the amount of communication you have to have
And trust.
and
honesty,
trust.
yeah.
And there's so many little elements that, like you said, it's all these ingredients to this recipe of the sex is fun, but it's these sprinkles on top of the cake. The rest, like, we're the foundation of what this is. It's for our relationship. It makes us happy. We love doing it together. And the sex part is cool, but all the other things that we've gotten out of it, I feel like, are what makes it so fun to us, because it strengthens us. And that's, for us, the whole core of where this is. And we're very big on trying to educate about that don't swing because you're trying to save something. Like, in our opinion, I mean, maybe it works for some people and everyone has their journey, but we're trying to come from a place of, this is love, and this is something to expand your relationship that can make you grow together as a couple, and it can be fun on top of it, but it needs to come from the right place, where we believe to truly be successful in it, you have to have all these little like ingredients that you're working on together, and then the rest is.
And we wish this was
sprinkles.
something more shown in mainstream media. And it's just every movie that you see about open relationships always fails. And that's why people always think this fails. And it doesn't. It doesn't have to fail, like we keep saying, like you keep saying too, as long as the foundation is there. And I think that's why it's so important to have people like you or other creators like this who are open about it and really explaining what it really is. And it's not just having sex with other people.
It's so deep. Like, it's so much deeper than
We
that.
get calls frequently from casting directors for up and coming
Pilot
reality
programs.
shows, pilot shows. You know, they find us and they want to know if we'll do it, or if we know of people that will do this program. And 99 times out of 100, it is always about, we're going to take this couple and they're going to decide to do this. We're going to watch them get ready in their bathroom to go to this party for their first time experience. And maybe it'll happen right. You know, I mean, and I'm like, why don't you talk about, like, just get away from the sexual aspect of it, and let's really look at someone and what it takes to be able to do this deep down. And they just don't want to. At least most of them.
There's no
don't.
shock
And
factor in that. And I think that's sad sometimes about how, like, media portrays things, but there's, like, what's exciting about a couple that's actually a strong relationship and they're doing something consensually. I feel like that doesn't get views. It doesn't move the meter for companies. I think that's what's disheartening about it.
It
You
is,
know, and that's why I hope that.
We'd love to do a documentary.
Yeah,
we would too.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
like just
Can we figure out how to do
yes,
that?
and like
Because-
we produce it. You know, people like
Right?
us produce
So we
it.
can say what we
can
want to say
show.
about
swingers
it.
by swingers. Like,
Yes.
we want the real truth, because I think that even if you're not open to this, and that's totally fine. Non-monogamy is not for everybody, and I understand that. But if you could even get people just to hear why people truly do this and how it can actually benefit your relationship, the things that people could even take about communication from swingers, even if they're never going to swing, there's so many valuable lessons just about relationship and humanity that you can learn from lifestyle people. And if it could just be shown, I think people that have no interest in swinging could also grow so much. I just wish that it was fairly represented, and it's just so awful all the time. So
awful all the time. Well, and I always tell John, if they actually came and just set up a camera in our house, it would be so boring.
It'd be boring.
I mean, because
we're healthy.
Normal people.
Yeah. I gotta go to the store. I mean, it's not like we wake up and I have lingerie on all day long.
Yeah.
I wish.
There's the
I'm not saying I wouldn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this the whole time, because you talked about your confidence
Mm-hmm.
early on, that first experience with you guys going to Padre Island, and the lack of confidence you had in yourself.
Yeah.
We have a commonality there, and I don't know if this has anything to do with your confidence, but I'm going to share it with
Okay.
mine. So I have red hair too. You
Yeah.
can't tell up here anymore, but I can show you later. And I was also
Take you up on
really really skinny,
Yeah.
and I felt like people looked at me. Well, they did. They treated me differently. I got picked on. I remember this one time, this kid put a white piece of paper on top of my head and called me matchstick. My stepdad.
I haven't got that one.
No,
I haven't
I
got
got
that
rid
one.
on the head like a dick on a dollar.
I've got. Yeah.
Yeah. Did that have play into your confidence at all? And if it didn't, it's okay. But for me, being in a lifestyle, it really helped me with confidence. Really, when Jackie and I got together, I was still really shy and didn't have a lot of self-confidence for some reason. I don't really know what it was. And then we got together and started really expanding our relationship. It built. And I have more confidence than I've ever had in my life.
Oh, 1,000%. I do think that, yeah, it definitely did, because I remember, same with freckles. People, like, I had little kids that would walk and be like, what are all these dots in your skin? People don't realize that, and you get ginger jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
To me, ginger is like a derogatory term, but people don't take it that way, because for some reason it's a joke to people, but it is like, it's offensive, it's hurtful. And my whole life I grew up hating my red hair because no one has it.
Yeah.
No one has it. You just feel like this outcast. And so I think that was in combination with everything else of just never being with anybody, never dating anyone, never having anyone tell you that they liked you.
Right.
I think it definitely plays a part in it. But yeah, the jokes, they stop hurting at some point. But whenever you're growing up and you're so easily hurt by
Vulnerable
people,
to
and
that.
yeah, and your parents, oh, I love your red hair. It's so special. One day you're going to see it special. You don't see that when you're a kid.
No.
You're like, this is the worst. Like, just let me dye it black or something. Like, let me be a normal kid.
My
So
mom
I-
thought it was so special, she gave me a perm.
Oh, nice. I should have done that.
Wow.
Then I really could have made some friends. So yeah, I think that it takes a role in it, but I think the biggest issue is for me of just never having anybody ever express that interest. And you just think to yourself, is it me? Am I attractive? And you think back to these things. Oh, I'm redheaded. I'm this skinny kid. I'm this thing that maybe isn't societal beauty standards, right? And I think that's definitely played a part in it.
And the lifestyle helps with that, because then you're able to meet people who are attracted to you, who want to. And you're like, oh,
yes.
yeah.
And that's what started
It's not
happening with
just
me
love, yeah.
when women would say to me, oh my God, I love your red hair. I would be like, what, really?
You do?
Yeah,
Like
know.
the freckles, you like those? For real? I don't even like those. Maybe I do now. Yeah, so I think all those things are, I said, to me, I started like gaining weight, and like, I'm not a big dude, but I don't look like I used to. I'm not just a toothpick anymore. Like, I got a little bit on there, but I feel like I felt this confidence in myself. And then having people, like you said, tell you they like this about you, or, oh, you're attractive. You hear these little things, and it affirms the things that you actually have been telling yourself for so long. So I think it starts in that core of yourself and believing in yourself, and then having people affirm that, like, oh wow, this is like, I'm not lying to myself. People do like this. And I think that that's a really cool feeling, to be able to be yourself and people like you for yourself. And you're not trying to, if I had brown hair and I'm changing everything about me, then people like me. Is it me? Like, I don't know. So I like that I can be myself and people like me for me now. And that confidence is through the roof, and the lifestyle is a large reason of like how I was able to gain it.
That's really cool. And I think for women, it does the same thing. I mean, there definitely, you hear about it in women where there might be some envy about what someone else has.
Yep.
That, as a woman, you don't, for guys too. But I think overall, and I'm a woman, so I can't really speak for women, but I think overall though, it does, because I've seen it with you.
Yeah.
I've really seen, since we've been in the lifestyle, it has really built your self-confidence.
Yeah.
I've never had more compliments than going to a lifestyle club. It's like women just love to hype each other up. You go to the bathroom, it's like, oh my God, you're so beautiful.
It's
I
like
love
the
you.
opposite of any other club I've ever been to.
Like people aren't
Instead of-
sizing you up.
Yes.
Yeah, like people are just,
You
like,
look
what are you
good.
wearing?
I love that. So I don't ever mind sitting outside the bathroom for 30 minutes, which happens all the time.
Because I'm making
I know
friends.
she's
I'm
making friends and feeling good about herself. And so it's cool that I know you're in this safe place, like where you're having fun. So and then you meet all the guys on the couches next to the bathrooms anyway. So like,
It's just like a
no harm, no
hangout.
foul. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, this has been, I feel like we could do like a 4-hour podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do
Yeah.
it. For sure. I mean, we've only just touched upon the conversation.
Just the tip.
Yeah, and you brought up some really great points and some things that we talk about when we coach couples on how to navigate getting into the lifestyle. I mean, you guys on your own without any coaching did it, and you hit all the most important parts, the pillow talk, the fantasy talk, the being honest, the communication, the setting boundaries, pushing through those.
The planning together.
Everything. I mean, it's like textbook. It's like stuff we would find. Jackie has a book called Swingers, the Questions You're Afraid to Ask. And isn't that what it's called?
Swingers Lifestyle.
Well, Swingers Lifestyle, yes. And you can find that on openlove101.com as well. But it touches on all those points, and they're key to have a successful relationship.
Exactly. Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
But having a great foundation like we've talked about here is the only way you can get through this type of stuff when you have other factors involved. So
I mean, that was definitely a lot of bumps along the road. Like we definitely messed up a lot, and we make podcasts about all the negative stuff because I want to talk about it because hopefully that can help someone not make the same mistakes that we made.
Be transparent.
And we'll do another podcast and we'll talk about that.
I was just going to say, we're going to have to do another podcast where we can talk about that. But so because you're reaching this age dynamic, tell us again where everybody can find you.
You go. You're great at
You
this.
say it?
Yeah,
Okay,
this is your time. Shine, baby.
You can find all of us, all of our information at fourplay.com. That's the number 4, OURPLAY.com. We have clothing. We have an icebreaker game. All of our events are listed there. We have so many learning resources. We make YouTube videos. We try to make it a one-stop shop for everything lifestyle. And hopefully if you're looking to expand into trying this out, hopefully you'll find something on our website that'll help you out. Fourplay.com.
And I think actually we're going to do a podcast with you guys about the icebreaker games, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so be looking for that coming up. That'll be on their podcast. So it's been great, and we definitely want to do this again with you sometimes.
You guys are amazing.
Talk about some other things.
You guys are amazing. Thank you for everything that you
have the amount of people that you helped, and I'm sure that you don't even realize. I said people like us that we're here because of having resources like you guys have. So cannot be more truthfully grateful.
Well, thank you. Really
the more of us out there that can speak up.
Yes, that's what we need. More representation.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us here at openlove101.com. Be sure and click the blue bell if you're watching us on YouTube. Share our podcast with others that might be curious about the lifestyle. And we will see you soon.
See ya.
So did you like that video? Then be sure and click on that subscribe button below, and you'll be guaranteed great sex the rest of your life.